What's up, Norbring Nation? How's it going? In today's video, I'm going to give you guys 5 things that I wish I knew earlier in my racing career. Over the years, there are so many things that I've realized if I would have started this earlier in my career would have progressed so much faster. And so today, I'm going to share those things with you guys to help you guys progress through your career faster. But before we get into that, I just want to give a big shout out to Tillip for providing me with some awesome merch to wear on this show. And now I want to give you guys a chance to win some awesome Tillip Racing merch for yourself. Comment down below what go-kart you drive and subscribe to the channel. That'll enter you to give you a chance to win your own Tillip Racing merch bag. So if you want some Tillip Racing merch, make sure to enter and I'll get this right to you. But enough with that, let's get started with the video. So the first thing I wish I knew earlier in my racing career was not to stress so much about my racing. Early in my career, every race that I was at, I would stress about performing well. I would focus on trying to just prove myself to all the other drivers out there. I wanted teams to know that even though I was young in this sport, I was still good enough to be on their list of kids they should sponsor. The reality of the situation is that nobody is looking at you when you start karting. Nobody's really looking to sponsor you, and it's super unlikely that anybody even cares that you're out on the racetrack. I know that sounds harsh, but honestly, focus on your driving. Try to eliminate any external distraction. Speaking for myself, I always thought every race was make or break. I would stress about every decision I made on the racetrack because I wanted to look like I knew what I was doing. I would be focusing on trying to get out of driver's way, or I would just be trying to do the right things on the racetrack at the wrong time. And again, the reality of the situation was that nobody really cared that I was in their way. Nobody even cared that I was on the racetrack with them. The best thing I should have been doing was focusing on myself and trying to learn those key things to help myself grow throughout my career. Those fundamentals that you learn early in your career are so important to building a strong foundation for a strong racing career. So if you focus on that early in your career and make sure that you're just putting in time to focus on your driving and to focus on what you need to learn, you will progress so much faster through your career. So don't stress early in your career about getting good results or trying to find sponsorships because the likely situation is it's not going to happen. Just focus on your driving and focus on building a strong foundation for your career. The second thing I wish I would have done earlier in my career was hire a driving coach. Now, I was fortunate enough early in my career to have a mechanic who really helped me out in my driving. He was a driver himself and he was able to point out the things I needed to do in order to get better. But I never had somebody on the racetrack with me coaching me around the track. Now, this is something I think would have helped me quite a bit throughout my career. Later down the road, I ended up hiring a coach and I realized how much I was losing by not hiring a coach earlier in my career. Having somebody behind me and being able to pinpoint exactly what I'm doing wrong in the corner helped so much. There are just things that your mechanic or somebody else is not going to be able to see from outside of the racetrack. So you want to have a coach out on the racetrack telling you exactly what you need to do. Early in your career, you really don't know what you don't know. So it helps to have somebody explain exactly what you're doing wrong and exactly how to fix that. And hiring a coach isn't just a one-time thing. You should try and go over and over and over with the same person to try and build a relationship and to try and build some consistent foundation for a good racing career. There's a world of information out there that you don't know, so it helps to have somebody guide you through your career. And also when it comes to setup and other things, a driver coach can really set up the kart for your driving style. They can see exactly what you do wrong consistently and help tune the kart to that. I wish I would have hired a coach earlier because it would have helped me pinpoint exactly what I was doing wrong on the racetrack and helped me eliminate that early in my career. Instead, I formed some bad habits that took a lot longer for me to break as I went on in my career. The third thing I wish I knew earlier in my racing career was to follow drivers instead of race drivers. During practice, every time I'd get behind a driver, my instinct was just to pass and go back by. That's what I thought racing was about. You know, you catch a driver, you pass a driver. But the reality is that's not exactly what you want to do. If a better driver passes you, or even somebody who you think is a worse driver passes you, it's best that you stay behind them and follow them and try to learn exactly what they're doing. Following a driver is basically like a free lesson on the racetrack. You get to see exactly what they're doing and exactly why they're faster than you. So take advantage of that early in your career and try to learn from the other drivers around you. Something that I didn't do early in my career was go out in the front of the practice field because I was too worried about getting in other drivers' way. But I should have been doing that because allowing those drivers to pass me and to get in front of me would have given me a great chance to see exactly what they're doing and to build my driving style off of them. You can see exactly what line they're taking, exactly where they're braking, and it helps you so much, especially with the technology that we have today. Having a camera on your kart and being able to rewatch that same session over and over and over again helps a lot because you can keep watching and seeing what's different about somebody else's driving style. Even when it comes to racing, early in your career, it's not super important just to be battling. It's important to grow and to get better as a driver. So if somebody passes you, maybe wait a few more corners to see why they passed you and why they're faster than you before you try and attempt to pass them back. Like I said earlier in the video, it's about building a solid foundation, and you want to build a solid foundation by learning from other drivers. So something I wish I did earlier in my career would be to follow more drivers instead of race them. The fourth thing I wish I did more in my racing career was communicate more. Like I said earlier, you don't know what you don't know in racing. If you don't communicate with people, you'll never know what you don't know in the sport. When it comes to drivers, mechanics, team owners, everybody, you should be reaching out to everybody. When it comes to kart setup, there's so many things you can learn from other people. Every night your mechanics are talking to other mechanics to try and figure out what other people are doing at the racetrack. This is something you can do early in your career to see what other setups people have at the track. Early in your career, you don't know if the track's rubbering up or getting greasy, so it helps to have an idea of what everybody else is doing, so that you can kind of copy it and kind of pick up things as you go along. It also helps to build relationships with people so that people will come over and reach out to you and give you the information instead of you having to go out and talk to them. When it comes to driving, it's for the same reason that it helps to talk to other drivers, because they can give you information that you didn't know already. My braking technique that I did a video on was actually something that another driver told me about. And because of that, my career sped up so much. I actually wish I would have known it sooner because I could have used that earlier in my career. It also helps down the road when you're wanting a sponsorship from these people to have that foot in the door already, and for that team or that person to already know who you are so that you guys already have that solid foundation. Like I said early in my career, you're not really getting sponsorships from people and you're not really impressing people on the racetrack, so it's good that you impress them in person and you try and show that you are a good representative. Communicating more at the racetrack will benefit your career so much because, like I said earlier, you don't know what you don't know, and having somebody explain stuff to you and to give you information that you never knew before would help so much in your career. And the last thing I wish I did earlier in my career was keep it simple. When it comes to setup, driving, schedule, or anything, keep your racing simple early on in your career. When it comes to racing, I would always try and over-strategize my races. I would think about where I'm going to pass drivers or how I was going to set up this qualifying session, and honestly, it just ended up messing up my session more than it did any good. In qualifying, I'd try and set up a tow with another driver, and I'd end up not getting a good lap. In the race, I'd talk to some driver about working together and trying to get through the field, and then we'd both end up stuck behind somebody, and I wouldn't pass because there was a miscommunication, and then my race would just be over. Keep it simple. Just try and go out and get a good lap in practice. Just try and go out and get a good lap in qualifying. In a race, if you catch somebody and you have a good overtaking opportunity, take it. Keep it simple and just try and learn. When it comes to your setup, there's no reason to try a whole bunch of different things on the go-kart because you're not going to be able to feel it. It's best that you keep it simple and do one thing at a time. Try and learn the fundamental setup changes to a go-kart so that later on in your career, you can pinpoint exactly what the go-kart needs. Never do more than 2 changes at a time because you're just going to get confused as to what that change does to the go-kart. Trust me, it's taken me years to get to the point where I know what the kart needs. And even now, I get mistaken quite often. So it's really important that you build a good foundation of what the go-kart feels like. Try and learn little characteristics about each setup so that you can get better on the racetrack. Tuning is half the game. So if you can learn what the go-kart feels like and what setup does what, you will be so much ahead of your competition a few years down the road. When it comes to your schedule, keep it simple. There's no reason to go race national level races all over the country if you can't beat the local drivers at your racetrack. There's no reason to race a regional series if you can't beat the local drivers at your racetrack. Something that I'm really thankful that happened in my career was that my dad kept my racing schedule very simple early on. We never raced out of state and we hardly ever left our little local track because we couldn't really beat the guys at our track. And slowly as I got better, we'd grow and go to bigger races and challenge ourselves every time we went to the racetrack. But we didn't get ahead of ourselves and do a full-time racing schedule and just overwhelm us and not be focused on the key things that really matter. Like I said, early in your career, that foundation is super important, and if you're overwhelmed by racing a bunch of different series, traveling to a bunch of different races, you're not going to be able to learn how the go-kart drives. One track you're going to be overdriving, the next track you're going to be underdriving, and you're not going to know why that's happening. So keep it simple. Everything early in your career needs to be simple. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Again, if you guys want some Tillit Racing merch, make sure to comment what go-kart you drive down below and then subscribe to the channel. If you guys like racing content like this and other karting related content, make sure to follow me on my Instagram and on my Facebook. That's where you get any updates on my racing career. Also, make sure to follow me on my TikTok. I post some cool racing stuff on there. So if you guys like that kind of stuff, make sure to follow that as well. Again, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll catch you at the next one.